Join ForumIAS Academy, trusted by hundreds of toppers, including IAS Rank 1 𝐂𝐡𝐚𝐧𝐧𝐞𝐥 Sharma.
Hello and welcome to ForumIAS. Today is 11th July 2023 and these are all the articles that we are going to see today. Most of them will be from mains perspective because the mains examination is fast approaching. The first article is about Madras High Court quashing criminal cases against minor boys for consensual relationships with minor girls. So generally what happens is, in school, in college, minor girls and minor boys get into consensual relationship with each other. And due to compulsions of their exigencies, they elope, they run away. But what happens is, most of the times, one of the person in that consensual relationship, they are treated as a minor under the POCSO Act. Prevention of Child Sexual Harassment. So one of them is treated as minor and one of them is treated as a delinquent under the Juvenile Justice Act. So here the article itself says the boy and the girl involved in such incidents would fall under the definition of the term child. Because how does this act define who is a child? Anybody who is under 18 years of age is defined as a child. But the judges expressed shock at the police having treated the minor girl in the case as a victim and the minor boy as a child in conflict with the law. Which law? That is the Juvenile Justice Act. So this girl is treated as a victim, but this boy is treated as a delinquent according to the Juvenile Justice Act. But then it was a consensual relationship. The blame can't be fixed on either the boy or the girl. So it is kind of gender neutral here, and these kinds of consensual relationships, they also affect the bodily autonomy of teenagers. So that is also a concern here. Now the age of consent, that is at the age in which an adult can give consent to a sexual relationship, that is age of consent. Age of consent in India is 18. But then minors are also having relationships, consensual relationships with each other. And under this case, what happens is, one of the minor individual is treated as a child and one of the minor individual is treated as a criminal. So that should not be there. That is the reasoning of the Madras High Court. Also, the court has decided to put an end to the two-finger test. It is conducted on victims of sexual offences. So what happens is, this test is very intrusive and it might further traumatize the victim. That is why the High Court has decided to put an end to the two-finger test. And also there is this archaic potency test. Archaic means very old, very outdated. So potency test is conducted by collecting the sperm of the suspect. So this is also an outdated method, and instead of this, the potency can be concluded using collection of blood samples, which is less intrusive than collecting the sperm. Okay, so this point we have explained earlier. And this decision on the whole was taken on the basis of High Court's writ jurisdiction under Article 226, and it is read along with Section 482 of Criminal Procedure. That is, what does this Section 482 say? It says that there is inherent power with the High Court to pass such orders as may be necessary to prevent abuse of the process of any court or otherwise to secure the ends of justice. So what happens is, in this case, it is a consensual relationship. So what happens, one of the parent files a complaint and it becomes abuse of the process of law just for the sake of personal vendetta. So that is why the High Court has used section 482 of the criminal procedure. One more thing that is mentioned is the writ jurisdiction. So far what we studied, it is relevant from mains point of view. That is trying of a minor under Juvenile Justice Act. One of the minor is treated under POCSO Act. All these come under mains perspective. From prelims perspective, we have to see about the writ jurisdiction of the High Court and how does it vary with the writ jurisdiction of the Supreme Court. So, writ jurisdiction of the High Court comes under Article 226 and writ jurisdiction of the Supreme Court comes under Article 32. Sometimes article numbers are also asked, so it is important. So, Article 226 confers the powers on the High Court to issue directions, orders or writs. Similarly, Supreme Court also issues writs, directions, orders as per the powers vested on it by Article 32. Article 226 is a constitutional right. It is one of the rights inside the Constitution. But Article 32 is a fundamental right. What does this mean? It is a fundamental right. So, the Supreme Court cannot refuse to exercise its powers under Article 32. But on the other hand, because Article 226 is a constitutional right, it gives discretionary powers to the High Court. Okay. So, because this right is a constitutional right, it is suspended during emergency. But Article 32 will not be suspended during emergency if it is due to armed rebellion. So, there is external as well as internal emergency. So, in both of these cases, this right won't be suspended. The right to move, Article 32 gives the right to move to the Supreme Court. So now this is a question for you. You have to mention in the comment section, when is Article 32 suspended? During external emergency or during internal emergency? This will also serve as a point of revision for you. Mention it in the comment section. Rest. So, Article 226, it is used by the High Court to issue writs to enforce fundamental rights as well as legal rights. But Article 32 can be involved only to enforce fundamental rights. So, in this sense, Article 226 is broader in scope because it covers both fundamental right as well as legal right. But because Article 32 is concerned only with fundamental rights, it has narrow scope than Article 226. The territorial jurisdiction, which territory does it extend to? It is the limited territorial jurisdiction. If it is Madras High Court, they will have writ jurisdiction over Madras and Puducherry. That is the state of Tamil Nadu and Puducherry. Other than that, they don't have the territorial jurisdiction. But Article 32, which is the writ jurisdiction of Supreme Court, it has broader and wider territorial jurisdiction than High Courts. This last point we have already seen. So, on the whole, to see this article, what they have done is, they have quashed criminal cases against minor boys for consensual relationship with minor girls. And the reasoning was explained. We discussed it. That is from mains point of view. From prelims perspective, we have discussed the difference between the jurisdiction of Supreme Court and High Court. And I have asked you this question. When is this power suspended? The right to move to the Supreme Court, when is it suspended? During internal or external emergency or during both? What is the circumstance? That you will answer in the comment section. Next. Today is the World Population Day, and by virtue of that, this article has come in the newspaper. It talks about women's reproductive autonomy. Let us move into the article. What is the theme of this year's World Population Day? It is unleashing the power of gender equality, uplifting the voices of women and girls to unlock our world's infinite possibilities. So, the author of this article, she is with the UN, and she says that this theme is very much befitting for India. It is very suitable for India. So, what is happening in Indian environment, Indian milieu? What are we doing with regards to population in India? That we will see. So what happens is, in India, we are obsessed with TFR, the total fertility rate, instead of ensuring the reproductive autonomy for each woman. Is India not ensuring reproductive autonomy? That is evident from National Family Health Survey, the data of which we will see later during this discussion. Okay, so the author is saying we focus too much on the total fertility rate instead of ensuring reproductive autonomy. When does population stability come? It comes when the reproductive decisions, sexual health decisions are free of discrimination, coercion and violence. When the woman has the autonomy to take decisions regarding her sexual health, and these reproductive and sexual health services, first of all, she has the autonomy to determine how she avails, and on top of that, there has to be accessibility. That is why the reproductive and sexual health services, they have to be affordable, acceptable, accessible, and they should be of high quality, so that women and couples, they are supported in having the number of children they want, when they want. That is on the whole on the couple. It's their decision. So this kind of reproductive autonomy, sexual health autonomy has to be promoted rather than being restrictive about it. This will empower and this will make the couple and the woman self-sufficient and autonomous to take decision. Only then the broader goal of population stability will be achieved. So this is the point that is put forth by the author of this article, but she is also lauding the efforts that were put in by India. India has committed itself to Family Planning 2030 partnership. So if India has to keep its commitment towards this partnership, it includes expanding the contraceptive basket. What does this mean? There has to be inclusion of new contraceptive options. So it will expand women's rights. She has more choices, right? She has more accessibility, and because of that, there is a spike in modern contraceptive prevalence, and this will more lead to population stability. Unwanted pregnancies, teen pregnancies, they are all prevented. Alright, so this access, that is also important. First, we have to expand the choices, the number of options that are available. And more than that, access also has to be timely, it is quality access, and it is also affordable, right? Because unspaced pregnancies, unplanned pregnancies, it will have influence on the newborn's health also. If it is an unspaced pregnancy, the mother also will not be at a very best health status to take care of the newborn, right? And there will always be neglection of the child that was born before the current child. So that is the peril of unspaced pregnancy. Both the children are getting neglected. There is also this imperative for the family, for the woman to work. So amidst all this, it will be taking a lot of toll on the physical and mental health of the new mother. So that is why accessibility, affordability of contraceptives is important. It will have effects on maternal mortality, morbidity, healthcare expenditure. If there is unspaced pregnancy, there will be healthcare expenditure that is arriving at close intervals, which will be a financial burden on the couple. So these are all the suggestions that are given by the author of this article, and India has made impressive strides. Say for example, if we take the maternal mortality, it was 254 per 100,000 live births in a year in the year 2004. Now it has reduced to a paltry number of 97 per 1 lakh births. So these programs which ensure maternal health, it is gender empowerment. And even India has been successful in cutting the number of child marriages by half. Teen pregnancies have also dramatically decreased. The access to vital services, health services, education, nutrition, all these have improved. We have programs like ICDS, Integrated Child Development Scheme. We have Poshan Abhiyan. These are all some of the schemes which have improved the accessibility to nutrition and health. And we have achieved this much stride. Now it is time for India to step up its game in terms of ensuring the autonomy, in terms of ensuring availability, affordability of modern contraceptives. Okay, so the National Family Health Survey Edition 5, as we already said, there is a lack of reproductive autonomy for women, because the survey itself says only 10% of women in India are independently able to take decisions about their own health, and 11% of women believe that marital violence is acceptable if a woman refuses to have sex with her husband. So that is internalized misogyny. These are all the keywords that you can use in the society portion of GS1 also. So, it is internalized misogyny. A woman thinks it is okay for her to be abused if she refuses sex. So, these are the points of concern which have to be addressed. It will come by knowledge, it will come by information, education, communication targeted towards women. IEC, information, education, communication, right? And also nearly half of all pregnancies in India are unplanned. So this situation has to change. Because of this survey result only, the author of this article is saying that many women continue to lack physical autonomy. So, advancing gender equality, it is not just about women, it is about the population as a whole. Because once there is gender empowerment, it will benefit the economy as a whole. India is going towards an aging society. It will reach its demographic peak in 2030. And then India will become an aging society, right? Whenever there is an aging society, there is a worry about labor productivity. In case of this concern, achieving gender parity is one of the best antidote to improve output and income growth. For this, we have to play early catch up. For this, women empowerment is necessary for India to continue its development story. And in countries that are experiencing rapid population growth, there has to be women's empowerment through education, family planning. It will bring about enormous returns in terms of human capital and inclusive economic development. So this is not just about women, it is about the population as a whole, right? So we have to move from the notion of population stabilization to population dynamics, because if we talk about population stabilization, it is seen as a problem. It is seen as, people are seen as entities without autonomy. Instead, if we are to take up our population policy in terms of population dynamics, it gives enough credit to the bodily autonomy of women, the autonomy of a couple, their choice to have children. So that should be the policy outlook in terms of population management, right? So India has tremendous opportunity to advance gender equality and grow its economy. If only women's labor force participation rate is increased by 10 percentage points, it will account for more than 70% of potential GDP growth opportunity. Because if the woman is working, it is having trickle-down effects. It will have effects in terms of increasing female labor force participation, increasing prosperity, increase in savings, increase in empowerment of the offsprings. So it has manifold effect. It has backward and forward linkages. So this is important. So gender equality, how can it be achieved? It can be achieved by making investments in a woman's life at every stage. Say for example, India has the 𝐒𝐡𝐚𝐬𝐫𝐢𝐛𝐞. It is a saving schemes especially for girl children, right? So engaging with women, girls, marginalized people in formulating legislation and policies, it will provide them a channel, it will provide them a healthy means to assert their rights, and it will empower them to take life-changing personal decisions. So these are all the suggestions that are given as a way forward by the author. So all in all, what this article is about, in the juncture of Population Day, focus should be on women empowerment, especially in terms of improving the information, education, communication, and improving access to reproductive health, increasing the affordability, changing the outlook towards population from population stabilization to population dynamics, empowerment of women and couple. And these are all the points that are discussed in the article. And this can be used in GS1 in the society part and also in GS2. Okay, so this is a very important article. Next article is about Global South. What does Global South means? It is a very interesting article, and this also comes handy in GS1 and also GS2. GS1 we can make use of it in globalization, in post-independence history, in world history also. In GS2 we can make use of this in the international relations portion. So this is very important article that we are going to discuss. Why there is a discussion about Global South? Because many leading countries in Africa, Asia, Latin America, they are unwilling to stand with the NATO over the war in Ukraine. So Ukraine is trying to mobilize support of these Global South countries, right? So in this context, the Global South is much under discussion. Why this particular term Global South? It has gained currency, it has gained popularity because Global South basically means that there are countries which are termed as developing, less developed, underdeveloped. All these countries come under the overarching umbrella of Global South. And these countries are many a times located in the southern hemisphere, largely in Africa, Asia and Latin America. They are poorer, they have high levels of income inequality, they have low life expectancy, they have harsher living conditions compared to the Global North. Global North is the Americas, that is the US, the European countries, Australia, New Zealand. They are termed to be Global North. So this is what is an introduction about Global South. So initially what happened was these countries were called as third world countries. So what happened in 1991, we had the Soviet crisis and there was breakup of Soviet Union. So the Soviet and Russia led countries are called as Second World. After the Second World was dismantled, using the term third world also has become very redundant. Then this term global south gained momentum. Okay, so developing nations, that is the countries that had yet to industrialize fully, before 1991 they were called as third world countries. Why these are called first world, second world, third world countries? It is modeled on the France's 3 estate system. So we had, in France, we had clergy at the top, we had nobility, and then we had commoners. Similarly, the global countries were also grouped into first world countries, second world countries, and third world countries. Okay. And also this term developed country, developing country, underdeveloped country, these terms also are not very correct, because you are holding up a Western country as the gold standard, as the ideal. So that is also not acceptable. The term third world has become irrelevant. Referring to these countries as developed, developing, underdeveloped, it is centering on Eurocentrism, white centricism. So that is why the term global south has gained popularity. So though it has this south word, it just doesn't mean the countries that are in the southern hemisphere. That is why they are telling that it is not just geographical. In fact, global south's 2 largest countries, that is China and India, they lie entirely in the north hemisphere. We know that, right? But then they are called as global south. Why? Because it is a mixture of geography and geopolity and geoeconomics. So it is a very dynamic term. It is not just restricted to one factor alone. So generally these countries were at the receiving end of imperialism and colonialism. The best example are the African countries. India was obviously under imperial control. It was part of the British Empire. And also there is something called as dependency theory. What this dependency theory talks about is there is a core and a periphery. That is, these core countries are global north countries, and these periphery countries are the global south countries. So how do people, resources, etc. move? How are these countries communicating and distributing resources among each other? That is called as dependency theory. It is a theory in sociology, in political economy. That much of depth is not required for GS. I'm just discussing it from an understanding perspective. So this dependency theory, simply put, it talks about the relationship between the West and the rest. That is, the West is the global north. And what relationship, what kind of dependency they have on each other with the global south. So it is more than just geography. That is what I am trying to convey here. So earlier the words like third world, underdeveloped, etc., they convey images of economic powerlessness. The term itself is conveying economic powerlessness. But global south is more of a, it's not just economic powerlessness. It is more about the sentiment. It is more about the shared history. It is about the shared history of oppression these countries face, the kind of exploitation that these countries face under a colonial rule. Even World Bank says that there is a shift in wealth from the North Atlantic to Asia Pacific. North Atlantic is the US and the European countries. Now the wealth itself has shifted to Asia Pacific. Say for example, there are more millionaires and billionaires in Beijing than in the New York City. And in 2030, it is projected that the 4 largest economies will be from global south. That is, in the top 4, 3 of them will be from global south. They are saying China will become the #1 economy. Next would be India. Then there would be US, and lastly there would be Indonesia. So you can see the power of global south. Already the purchasing power, the GDP in terms of purchasing power of the BRICS countries, these are all from the global south, right? Majority of them, barring Russia. So we have Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. So already the GDP of BRICS countries in terms of purchasing power parity, it has surpassed the global North's G7 club, which consists of US, UK, France, etc. US, UK, France, Japan, Italy, Germany, and Russia is in limbo here. So we need not take that. So this is the global North dominated club. Already the collective GDP in terms of PPP terms, it has surpassed the collective GDP of G7, right? And the political power is also asserted by these countries. For example, China brokered truce between Iran and Saudi Arabia. Brazil is attempting to push a peace plan to end the war in Ukraine. So that is the level of assertion that shows the rise of the global south. Okay. The next article, it is about fertilizers. The Union Minister for Chemicals and Fertilizers, Mansukh Mandavia, he has talked about easing the import of urea by 2025. What does this article say? We'll see more about it. Why this is in news? Because there is a 3.7 lakh crore package that has been announced because the use of fertilizers has become unbalanced in the country. In order to correct this, a new package is getting introduced. So what the minister has said was One Health. This is a very important keyword which you can use in GS2, GS3, even in GS4 in some cases. What is this? So currently, if we see, the balance of the soil has been damaged due to excessive use of fertilizers. And because of this balance getting affected, the production has become saturated. It has been stuck. It has not increased beyond a certain level. So the minister says that soil health, human health, animal health, environmental health are connected with one another. And this is what it means when we say there is one health. All these health are connected with one another. To promote this one health, this particular package has been brought about. To go by data, if we see, there is a 16% decrease in production in Punjab despite a 10% increase in the use of fertilizers in the state during the same period. Right? Why this happened? Even if there is increase in the use of fertilizers, there is a decrease in production. It is because of deterioration of soil health over a period of time. Okay. So in this context, it has become more clear that there should be a balanced use of fertilizers so that steady production is ensured. If there is steady production, food security is also ensured. And if there is steady production, it will help the farmers also. But right away, India cannot move towards natural farming. Though we are slowly moving towards natural farming and organic farming in a step-by-step manner. The right away movement is not possible because it might affect the food security. We might go into a Sri Lanka-like situation where Sri Lanka suddenly shifted from fertilizer and chemical based agriculture to natural farming. That should not happen in a country like India, which has a very huge population. So currently what the government is aiming is to end the import dependence on urea by 2025 and replace it with nano urea and other alternative forms of urea. Say for example, a 500 ml bottle of nano urea, it will replace one bag of 45 kg of urea. So it will even reduce the transportation cost. So the government is expecting that the farmers will happily adapt to nano urea because of its benefits. Initially, even adapting to urea was a big thing when the Green Revolution happened, but it has reached to such a stage that we are looking for alternatives. So what the government is thinking, that there might be initial hiccups during the adoption of nano urea, but eventually it is expected that there will be happy uptake of this new kind of technology, new kind of fertilizer. Okay. The last article of the day is about Solomon Islands and China signing deals on police, economy and tech. So what happens is, because of this particular alliance, US and Australia are concerned. So how is this relevant for India? That we have to wait and watch. But more importantly, from exam point of view, we have to look at the map. So here we have the Solomon Island. It is in the northeastern direction to Australia, and this Solomon Islands, it is a part of Melanesia. And there was a question in the Combined Defence Service examination about New Zealand being a part of which of these? Is it Micronesia, Polynesia or Melanesia? New Zealand is a part of Polynesia. Solomon Islands is a part of Melanesia. Then we have other islands, famous islands like Marshall Islands. It is a part of Micronesia. In this Marshall Island only, cryptocurrency was made legal tender. Hawaii, which is a US territory, that is also a part of Polynesia. Okay. So this is about the map points. Now we have to see some previous year questions. Okay. So the question says, with reference to the election of the President of India, consider the following statements. 1. The value of the vote of each MLA varies from state to state. Yes, because of the population of each state. Depending on that, the value of vote of an MLA from that state is different. From the vote of, say for example, the vote value of an MLA from Kerala is different from the vote value of an MLA from a bigger state, say for example Madhya Pradesh, right? Next is the value of the vote of MPs of Lok Sabha is more than the value of the vote of MPs of Rajya Sabha. See, the value of vote of one MP, whether he is from Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha, is the same, but the collective value of the votes of MPs of Lok Sabha is more. So this statement is also correct. So answer is C, both 1 and 2. Next, consider the following countries. Which of the above are among the free trade partners of ASEAN? So we have Australia, Canada, China, India, Japan and USA. So India and ASEAN, they have an FTA. So India is a free trade partner. Japan is also a free trade partner. So 4 and 5 are there in this option and this option. So we can eliminate D. Now we have to think. USA and ASEAN, they don't have a free trade agreement. So we can eliminate B. So we have to decide between 2 and 3. That is Canada and China. So there is a free trade agreement not with China. So the answer would be 1. So consider the following countries. That is, first is Australia, Canada, China, India, Japan, USA. Which of the above are among the free trade partners of ASEAN? So the answer for this particular question is C. That is Australia, China, India and Japan are the free trade partners of ASEAN. This is a fact-based country, yet USA and Canada don't have an FTA with ASEAN. Okay. Last question. Consider the following pairs, towns sometimes mentioned in news and the country. Aleppo, Syria. Kirkuk, Yemen. Mosul, Palestine. Mazar-e-Sharif, Afghanistan. So, this Mazar-e-Sharif is correctly matched. Okay. Mosul is not in Palestine. It is wrong. Mosul, Aleppo is in Syria. Kirkuk is not in Yemen. Kirkuk, Mosul, all these are not in the countries mentioned here. Consider the following pairs, towns sometimes mentioned in news and the country. So in this, Aleppo is in Syria, Kirkuk, Mosul, both of these countries are incorrectly matched because Kirkuk, Mosul, both of them are located in Iraq. Mazar-e-Sharif is correctly matched because it is located in Afghanistan. So the question is asking about the pairs that are correctly matched. So the answer here is 1 and 4. So B is the correct answer. So that's it for today's discussion. Follow us on all the social media platforms. This is Indumati signing off. Thank you. All the best.